In the final weeks of last year, something happened inside Florida's home building industry that the builders really do not want you to notice. Roughly 40% of them cut their prices, not on old homes, on brand new ones. And about 2/3 of them are now quietly paying to buy down your mortgage rate, eating that cost themselves, just to get anyone, to sign a contract. Builder confidence has been sitting in negative territory for well over a year straight. When an entire industry starts giving away money like that, it is not a sale. It is a signal. Nationally, the number of finished homes sitting unsold climbed to levels the industry had not seen since the years right after the great financial crisis. In plain terms, the builders' parking lots filled up, and the only way to empty them was to start handing out deals. But here is what the builders are not telling you. In a handful of very specific Florida towns, they did not just overshoot the market by a little. They built entire streets of houses that nobody ever moved into. Finished homes, landscaped lawns, empty driveways, row after row of brand new construction sitting dark at night, waiting for buyers who simply never came. Today, I'm going to take you to the 10 Florida towns where this is worst, show you exactly how empty each one really is using the latest numbers from Zillow and Redfin, and explain the single force that caused all of it. Let us count them down. So how does a brand new house end up empty? It is not complicated, and it is the one villain running through every single town on this list. During the boom, builders in Southwest Florida did something risky. They built on speculation, which means they put up finished houses before they had any buyer at all, betting that the flood of new arrivals would never stop. For a while, it worked beautifully. Then demand softened. Higher insurance costs made these homes more expensive to own, and the wave of out-of-state movers that had fueled everything slowed to a trickle. But the houses were already going up, already framed, already finished. You cannot unbuild a house. So the builders were left holding street after street of completed homes in a market where the buyers had quietly thinned out. That is the entire story. Too many finished houses, not enough people to buy them, in the same few towns at the same time. Everything else, the price cuts, the rate buy downs, the growing months of unsold supply, is just the sound of builders trying to dig their way back out of that hole. Now let us see where the hole is deepest. Number 10 is St. Petersburg, over in the Tampa Bay area. And I am starting here on purpose, because it shows the pattern reaching beyond the epicenter. Both Zillow and Redfin now rate this as one of the coldest markets in the country, a place where buyers hold almost all the power. A surge of new townhome and condo construction arrived just as demand cooled, and now those brand new units sit while sellers and builders pile on concessions. Days on market here have stretched far past where they were a year ago. St. Petersburg is the warning shot, proof that when builders overshoot, even a beloved established city is not immune. A buyer walking into one of these new buildings today holds leverage that would have been unthinkable during the frenzy when units sold before they were even finished. That is how far and how fast the ground has shifted. Number 9 is Pace, a small, fast-growing community in the Western Panhandle in Santa Rosa County. Pace is not a household name, and that is exactly why its inventory surge is so telling. Builders treated this quiet town as the next frontier, throwing up new subdivisions on the assumption that growth would keep pouring in from nearby Pensacola. The growth slowed, the subdivisions did not. Now Pace carries far more new inventory than a town its size can absorb, and those finished homes are sitting, waiting, discounted. Pace shows that this is not only a big city problem. The overbuilding reached the small towns too. And in a small town, oversupply is even more visible because there is no vast urban market to quietly absorb it. A few dozen empty new homes in a place the size of Pace is not a statistic. It is a street you can drive down and count. Number 8 is Citrus Springs, on Florida's Nature Coast in Citrus County. Citrus Springs was platted decades ago as a sprawling grid of empty lots, and during the boom, speculative builders finally filled many of them with brand new spec homes, betting on retirees hunting for affordability. But the demand never matched the supply of lots available, and now Citrus Springs has one of the more striking inventory pileups in the state relative to its size. Streets that were meant to fill with new residents are instead lined with new houses and few new neighbors. Citrus Springs is what happens when the lots were always there, and the builders finally overcommitted. The homes themselves are perfectly nice, freshly built, and move-in ready. The problem was never the houses. It was the simple arithmetic of building faster than anyone was actually arriving to buy. Number 7 is Punta Gorda, and now we are firmly in the Southwest Florida epicenter. This was the single steepest declining home building market in the entire state last year, with values down almost 12%. Charlotte County, where Punta Gorda sits, saw its for sale inventory balloon to roughly double its normal level, one of the largest surges anywhere in the country. Builders here kept delivering finished products straight into a market where insurance costs were climbing and buyers were vanishing. The result is exactly what the title promises: brand new homes sitting quietly on streets that were supposed to be full by now. Redfin shows homes across this county sitting far longer on the market than they did even a year ago, and with values already down almost 12%, a builder who finished a home here last year is now competing against a market that has moved sharply against them. Punta Gorda is the clearest early picture of where a building spree meets a retreating buyer. Number 6 is the Bradenton area in Manatee County on the southwest Gulf Coast, and the numbers here are almost hard to believe. Zillow shows values in this county down about 6% over the past year, well past the state average. And here is the detail that tells the whole story. Builders are now listing brand new townhomes for around $250,000, a price that would have been unthinkable just 2 years ago, and detached new homes near $360,000, often with the mortgage rate bought all the way down to 5%. And even at those discounts, buyers are nowhere to be found. When a builder cuts that hard and still cannot move the house, you're looking at a genuine oversupply. Think about what that means for a family who bought a brand new home here 2 years ago at full price. The identical house down the street is now selling for tens of thousands of dollars less, with the rate bought down on top of it, and there is nothing they can do but wait. In an oversupplied market, the last one in at full price is the one who pays for everyone else's discount. If you have made it this far, you already understand this better than most people scrolling past a new construction sign this weekend. So do me a favor and tap the like button, because it truly helps push this in front of buyers before they overpay for a spec home in a glutted market. And the final 5 towns are where the oversupply gets truly severe. Number 5 is Fort Myers, sitting right beside Cape Coral in the heart of Southwest Florida. Fort Myers was one of the busiest new construction markets in the state during the boom, with the big national builders pulling permits as fast as they could pour foundations. Then the same forces that hit the whole region arrived: softer demand and a wall of finished homes. The national builders responded the only way they know how, with aggressive incentives, rate buydowns, and price reductions to keep those completed houses from aging on the books. Redfin shows homes across this region taking far longer to sell than they did at the peak. Fort Myers is where the biggest builders in the country are quietly fighting to clear their own inventory, and these are not small operators. When national builders the size of the ones working this region start eating the cost of rate buy-downs and slashing base prices, it is because their own unsold inventory has grown heavy enough to threaten their margins. The discounts you see here are not generosity. They are a company trying to empty a parking lot. Number 4 is Port Charlotte, just north, another Charlotte County community that was built for a wave of buyers that has thinned dramatically. Port Charlotte's story is the same clean mechanism: spec homes finished on the bet that demand would hold, delivered instead into a market where months of unsold supply have climbed well into buyer's market territory. The homes are new, the streets are quiet, and every month those finished houses sit unsold. The pressure on the builder to cut the price again grows heavier. Port Charlotte is oversupply in its purest, simplest form. There is no complicated second cause to untangle here, no condo law, no single failing employer. It is simply a builder who finished too many houses for the number of people who showed up to buy them, and every quiet, empty driveway is the proof. Number 3 is Northport, one of the towns that makes this crisis so visible. Number 3 is Northport, one of the towns that makes this crisis so visible. Only a few years ago, Northport was celebrated as one of the fastest growing cities in the entire country, and it grew almost entirely through brand new construction, street after street of new homes for the new arrivals. Then the arrivals stopped arriving. Zillow now shows values here down close to 9% over the past year, among the steepest slides in the state, and Redfin has the typical home taking around 77 days to sell. Northport was built to be a town of newcomers, and the cruel twist is that it now has streets of newcomer homes with no newcomers left to fill them. A town built entirely on the promise of growth has almost nothing to fall back on when that growth pauses, because there was never an older, established core underneath it. Northport is new construction all the way down, which is exactly why an oversupply hits it so hard. If you are still with me, the final 2 are the most extreme of all. The towns built so completely on new construction that when the buyers stopped, there was nothing underneath to hold them up. Number 2 is Cape Coral, the beating heart of this entire story. Cape Coral is the largest city by land area in the state, a vast grid built for endless growth, and builders treated it exactly that way. Now it is one of the most oversupplied new construction markets in the country. Realtor.com forecasts values here could fall by about 10% across this year, among the steepest projected declines anywhere. Redfin shows more than 7 months of supply, deep in buyers' market territory, and in a recent quarter, 43% of Cape Coral buyers were searching to leave the area entirely, while barely 1% of buyers nationwide were searching to move in. Builders here are openly offering incentives just to move new inventory. Cape Coral is where the biggest bet on endless growth met the emptiest reality. Zillow has the typical Cape Coral home down around 6% over the past year, and with more finished inventory arriving into a market where the buyers are actively looking elsewhere. The pressure on builders to keep cutting is relentless. This is the single largest concentration of the entire problem in the single largest city. Before I reveal the number 1 town, the one with no easy fix in sight, there is one resource worth knowing about if any of these towns is on your radar. I keep everything in one place, a single breakdown of 40 Florida towns, 20 that are genuinely worth buying into right now, and 20 worth staying well away from, each with the specific reason attached, including the exact oversupply risk we have just walked through. If you want to see which side of that line a town falls on before you ever make an offer, the link is waiting in the description. But stay right here, because the number 1 town is the worst of all. And right after it, I will give you the one honest truth that changes how you should read this entire story. And number 1, the town with no easy fix in sight, is Lehigh Acres. To understand why Lehigh sits at the very top of this list, you have to understand what it was built to be. Lehigh Acres is an enormous grid of platted lots, sold for decades as the most affordable path into Southwest Florida. And during the boom, builders filled it with new spec homes aimed squarely at the buyers with the very least cushion. That is the trap. The people Lehigh was built for were the first to be priced out when insurance climbed and rates rose. So the demand for these homes did not just soften, it evaporated exactly where the supply was heaviest. Foreclosure filings in the county already run above the state average, and much of that lands right here. There is no wealthy buyer pool waiting in the wings, no luxury demand to absorb the excess, just a vast grid of brand new houses built for a buyer who can no longer afford to show up. That is why Lehigh Acres has no easy fix in sight, and why it is the #1 town on this list. Every other town on this list has some cushion, some wealthier buyer pool, some established core, some path back. Lehigh has the least of all of them. It was built to be entirely new and entirely affordable for entirely new arrivals, and when all three of those pillars gave way at the same time, there is simply nothing left to catch the fall. The houses are real, finished, and waiting. The buyers they were built for are the ones this market pushed out first. So there they are, 10 Florida towns where brand new houses are sitting empty, and one single villain underneath every one of them, builder oversupply, plain and simple. Here is that honest truth, and it matters because your trust is worth more than a scary story. This is a Southwest Florida story. It is not the whole state, and it is very much not the whole country. In fact, nationally, the number of unsold finished new homes has actually been falling since December, drifting back toward normal because builders slowed their pace and stopped starting so many new specs. America's largest home builder recently reported its unsold homes were down 25% from December alone. Even across most of Florida, overall inventory is tightening rather than growing. What you are looking at in these 10 towns is a concentrated glut in the specific corner of the state that overbuilt the hardest, not a nationwide flood, of empty houses. In other words, the very builders who overbuilt these towns have already slammed the brakes on starting new ones, even as these specific Southwest Florida pockets stay swollen with finished, unsold homes. What you are looking at in these 10 towns is a concentrated glut in the specific corner of the state that overbuilt the hardest, not a nationwide flood of empty houses. That distinction is everything, and anyone who tells you the entire country is drowning in empty new construction simply has not looked at the data. But within these 10 towns, the oversupply is very real, and it hands you real leverage if you're a buyer. When a builder is carrying finished homes they desperately need to move, you are negotiating from the strongest position buyers have had in this region in years. The rate buy-downs, the closing cost credits, the price reductions, all of it is on the table, and all of it is negotiable. The very same oversupply that is a nightmare for the builder is an opportunity for the patient, informed buyer. The trick is simply knowing that you are shopping in a glutted market and never paying sticker on a spec home in a town where dozens more sit empty a few streets over. Ask the builder how many completed, unsold homes they are holding in that community and how long the one you are looking at has been finished. The longer it has sat, the more room you have to negotiate on price, on the rate buy-down, and on the upgrades. The buyer who does that homework holds the whip hand. The buyer who pays sticker is quietly subsidizing the builder's mistake. Now, I genuinely want to hear from you because the comments on these are always the sharpest part. Have you driven through one of these towns and seen it yourself? The finished homes and the empty driveways that were supposed to be full? Tell me which town and what you saw, because someone scrolling right now is about to buy new construction there and needs to hear it. And if this helped you understand what is really happening out there, hit the like button and subscribe, because these inventory numbers shift every single month, and I would rather you hear the next warning from me than drive past it too late, because that is exactly what is coming next. There is a second group of Florida towns where the builders are still going strong today, still betting on growth, but where the early signs of the same oversupply are just beginning to show. When those towns turn, they will turn fast, just like these did. So stay with this channel, and we will name the Florida towns where the next wave of empty new houses is already being built before the driveways ever go dark.